Sure, you don't have to do this in Arizona at this time of the year, but here in Alberta,
when your thermostat is bad,
then you have to replace it. Right there is a thermostat housing, and there are two 8mm bolts. But to get into that housing, you need to remove a couple stuff here. I mean this snorkel. So there is 10mm bolt right here. Then this intake cover. So there are 10mm bolts, 2 of each side. There is a connector here. So this red tag, you have to remove it first. And then press on this black one. There is one hose for the PCV system. And this green tongue, you have to push it down and then wiggle it a little bit. You have to drain the coolant, which you can do when you put a little hose here on this petcock and loosen this coolant drain plug. That's a 9mm socket, so I'm gonna use the 9mm socket and the ratchet. And to get there, you can get there from the top between the coolant hose and this plastic cover, and it's easier when you remove the wiring off of this plastic cover, so you have more room for your hand in there. The coolant bucket is ready to go. When the coolant will drain into that bucket, I will remove all that plastic stuff to get into this thermostat housing here. Forgot to mention, you have to unscrew this cap, and I let it sit there, or the coolant system will get some air from the top. So when you get those 4 bolts out, you just wiggle this cover and take it off. Now we have a good access to this thermostat housing. Remove those 2 8mm bolts, and I'm gonna lift the whole thing up. Yeah, but before I do that, I'm gonna put some rag over that. I'm gonna put some stuff around this coolant housing. So I think I got it covered pretty well. What I like to do is to squeeze the hose. So if you can see, when I squeeze the hose, the top hose, there is still some coolant draining out of that petcock. And now it's time to remove the housing. It's pretty stubborn. So I have this little tiny pry bar. I'm gonna use that. So now I can lift this whole thing up. It's pretty dirty, but we will definitely can take care about that. I'm gonna leave the hose sitting right here somewhere. Oh, it's stubborn. It's pretty much corroded in their hole. So again, I'm gonna use my little tiny pry bar. Very gentle, because this is all aluminum. Oh yeah. Okay. And just for the record, this is a 192 Fahrenheit thermostat. This part number might change over the years, but here is the part number 3L3E8575AC. So I'm gonna clean this with the shop rag first. I remove all those shop towels around, and I inserted another shop rag inside this hole. There is a lot of scale buildup, and I'm using this small pry bar for one more reason. It's nice and flat here, so it's almost like 90-degree angle, and it's pretty flat, and it's not too sharp. So if I use it like this, I believe I wouldn't hurt that surface of that aluminum housing here. So compared to a screwdriver, you might make some like a scratches on the surface, and I don't like that. So I'm pretty happy with the surface inside of this housing, so I'm gonna do the same for the top, and also for this guy here, because this is pretty nasty. So I believe this was original thermostat here. There's too much scale buildup. And for the final touch-ups, I'm gonna use the razor blade. I don't like to do it this way, to go against the material. Before I touch the material, I move the blade towards me or the other way. But what I'm gonna use here, it's gonna be the pressed air, pressurized air. So I'm gonna blow everything off and then using the Scotch Brite and blow everything off, and this surface should be ready to go. I'm gonna use the Scotch Brite for the final, very final touch up here. Just finished the other part. It's not nice and shiny, but for me it's more important if it's flat and smooth. I bought this fail-safe thermostat from Motorrad, and this thermostat is 195 degree Fahrenheit. It comes with the rubber gasket, and it has this bleeding hole, air bleeding hole as well. So in case the thermostat fails to operate, it will stuck in open position. It shouldn't cause any overheat in the future. But what I also bought with this aftermarket thermostat, because I don't really believe 100% to aftermarket products, is this thermostat gasket, Motorcraft. This should be a perfect fit, because if you try to insert the thermostat into the housing, this rubber is actually the problem there. It will not fit with the rubber on. And I show you how it works actually. So this part is facing down. It doesn't matter the orientation of this bleeder hole, but this is too big. I can't push it in there. Maybe I can force it, but of course I don't want to force it. When I take this rubber off, the thermostat sits in the position perfectly. I'm gonna open this bag, get my Motorcraft seal, put it on top. Those two 8mm bolts, the torque for them is 89 inch-pounds. And I'm gonna clean these threads of both bolts, because there is that scale buildup. Just before I put this together, I want to make sure that those two bolts, they go in there without any issues. I blew it off with the compressed air, so it shouldn't be a problem, but I'll double check how easy they go in there. Not a problem with those threads at all. Okay, so I tightened those bolts with my hands, and now I'm gonna give it a little bit of a touch with my ratchet. Nice and easy, both sides evenly. 89 inch-pounds is roughly 10 Newton meters, which actually makes sense for 8mm bolt. Let's start putting everything back together. Just a little wiggle and little push from the top. Again, everything, because it's aluminum, I'll start with my hand, at least 3 to 5 threads, to make sure that it's not cross-threaded. But I'm gonna use the 10 Newton meter here, just to play safe, and I will double check how it feels actually. Actually it feels pretty good, so I'm gonna use the same torque. Now I will put this hose back together. This green locking mechanism, push it down, push the whole thing in, and then release. Connect the MAF sensor here. So once you push it in, you can hear the click, and then there is this red tag, this red locking tag. Don't forget to push it in there too. So this part is done. I tightened that petcock drain bolt already with my 19 mil socket and the ratchet, but I hold it right here at the head of the ratchet, because I don't have that much power, that much leverage, so you will not break that bolt. It doesn't need too much torque actually, it's all plastic, so just be careful. If you took this wiring harness out of this plastic cover, just don't forget to put it back in. What I found was these couple holes on the bottom of this intake snorkel. Here another one, here another one, and there are 6 more here. I'm not sure if this is a factory build-up, but it looks pretty weird to me. And that's why we have this snorkel this long, to actually suck the fresh air and cold air from the outside. So why will they drill these holes in here? To drain the possible moisture out? Not sure, because this is not even nice pattern here, so I'm not sure this is a factory thing. We're gonna insert this end to the fender first. Once it's in there, just slide the whole thing into the intake, and don't forget there is a 10mm bolt going in here. I like Ford, I have a blue blood probably, but I don't like how they do some things. Like, they put one bolt just in the middle, and then this whole thing can actually go in there or slide out of there. But that should be a 2-bolt system somewhere, so it just holds it in place nice and steady. Engineers didn't do a great job, that's what I think. It is like it is, Mr. Ford. So the last thing I want to do here is to put some coolant in the system. So I'm gonna use this universal bottle here with those 2 elbows, so I can get this bottle a little bit off of the hood. Comes with multiple adapters, so I found the right one for me, the blue one. What I like to do is to put some fine mesh over the bottle and the rubber, so when I fill the bottle with the coolant, I can filtrate that coolant as well. Right, let's do it. Now again, fill it up. And this is what I caught in this very fine mesh. So there is always something in there, especially when you work outside. I'm gonna fire it up. There is no battery yet. I'm gonna fire it up, looking for any leaks, looking for the level of the coolant here. If I need something, I will top it up with 50-50 mix. The one thing you can actually do before you install the thermostat is to double check if the thermostat is working, if the new thermostat is working, because that might be a case when the new thermostat might be bad. And you can use the hot water for 3-5 minutes to let it boil in the hot water and see if it opens up. What I'm gonna use here is the OEM Gold Ford Lincoln Mercury antifreeze or / coolant concentrate, and I pre-mixed this coolant with water, with the soft water in this bottle of different manufacturer, but it was empty. So I'm gonna fire the truck up, watch for the coolant level, top it up. Once it warms up, I close the bottle, take it for a spin, watch the gauge on my cluster, watch the scanner. So there is nothing happening on the gauge yet, it's too soon, but I can check the temperature of the engine coolant and ambient air temperature. So it's -8, welcome in Alberta, and it's 45 degrees on the coolant. I will check for the coolant leaks in the meantime. I can be confident I can remove this bottle here and I can install the regular cap. And also I don't see any bubbles coming out of the system. But now I'm gonna install this original cap. The temperature is 69 degrees Celsius and the gauge moved a bit as well. I never had more than 82, and with a hard driving, like a full driving on the highway or whatever, or in the city, I'm just curious what's gonna happen right now. It's 12:23 on the display. I'm gonna take it for a quick spin and we'll see what happens, but I'm very happy with what I see right now, because the needle on the temperature gauge goes close to the middle, which indicates something has changed, and it's 81 degrees. It's 20:29 on the display, so 6 minutes later I can tell that I'm very happy with the results. Engine coolant temperature is above 89 to 91 degrees, usually about 90, and also the gauge is happy in the middle. When I set up my heating for 32 degrees, I feel nice and hot air coming out of the vents. Basically in those 6 minutes the truck warmed up pretty quickly. We'll double check the coolant level right now, hoses, stuff like that, coolant leaks around the drain petcock and the thermostat housing. And if it's everything good, I call it a day.